You're a busy professional. You don't have time for fluff. You need strategies that work, and you need them fast. Welcome to Busy Bro Fast Wellness with me, your host, Alan Welsh. We're here to give you science-backed hacks and actionable tips to boost your focus, minimize friction, and maximize your results. Less time, more impact. It's time to get well, stay strong, and thrive. Let's get to it.
Hello and welcome back, everyone. This is the second part of my conversation with longevity researcher and fully alive podcast host, Zach Gurick. Now, in part one, Zach took us into the world of tools, testing and technologies that shape the future of our personal health. And it's pretty obvious, Zach loves gadgets, like I do, but maybe to a lesser extent. Anyway, his enthusiasm isn't hype. It comes from a real belief that personalized data will soon let us live stronger, longer lives with more clarity, more control, and just overall quality. So today, in part two, we go beyond the tech. We go deeper into what really matters as we age. And I'm looking at 4 different categories here. The first one is the power of biomarkers that we can actually track. And secondly, why optimism is linked to a 15% longer life. Thirdly, how purpose, connection, and the people we love are our medicine. And finally, the stories that prove this. And you'll hear the story of Marv, who's an 86-year-old cyclist who, on his 85th birthday, rode the equivalent of riding over several continents, and the woman who went to university aged 97 and graduated at 101. Now, these people show us something profound. It's not about being youthful, it's about staying useful. So, without further ado, let's dive into the second half of this beautiful conversation with Zach Gurick and the real engines of longevity that every one of us, no matter what our budget is, can access. I'll see you on the other side.
So those are a couple of those kind of more diagnostic tests. And then as far as biomarkers, I just actually read recently that both Aura and Whoop now have come out with blood biomarker testing. And so it's already within their app. And so if you're an Aura Ring or a Whoop user, you can actually just add a blood panel on and it'll be right in your app. I think it's $99 for Aura, and Whoop, I think it's $150 or something like that. And you can add on like twice a year or 3 times a year. The price goes up a little bit, but then they'll scan for 50 plus biomarkers.
Wow.
So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
There's another company I like called Life Force. That's Tony Robbins is kind of behind that one.
Yeah.
They actually will come to your house and draw your blood 4 times a year and then give you a telehealth visit to go over your levels. And so, if you get those Aura or Whoop tests, it's really, you need to know what to do with it. That's the key is like, oh, great, I got all my biomarkers tested well beyond a normal annual blood check that's just looking at like cholesterol and things like that. But what are all these other biomarkers and what's out of whack? What's out of range? And so I think this is a shift in where medicine is going to, is instead of kind of population health of like, oh, okay, this is a normal range, you should be in it. It's well, I want to optimize my levels for me personally. And so if I'm low on vitamin D, or I need more minerals, or I need some vitamin K or whatever, like I want to optimize those levels so that the things within my own biochemistry are functioning at optimal levels.
Right.
And so, I think that's really important. And then we need to recheck it because it does change. If we start using supplements or taking vitamins or minerals, or change our diet slightly, or start, doing more heavy weightlifting or less, whatever, we need to see next, 6 months from now, are we going in the right direction? Or a year from now, and are there foods now that I've started to eat that maybe I was sensitive to before and now I'm not, so there's a lot of things around that you can check for. So that's, like the Life Force that I mentioned, I think it's $1,500 for a year. And that gives you four tests, once every 3 months, and 4 virtual appointments to help you optimize those levels.
Incredible. That's really good.
Yeah. And then, there's a couple things. I'd still go back to like, what do you do? Like, we can get all this data with our wearables, with our,
Yeah.
Oura rings and Whoops and Garmin's, and we can get our biomarkers tested. But what do you do with that data? Is it actionable? And it's
Yeah.
not really going to help us unless it's actionable. And
Exactly.
so, um, if our levels are low or high, how
Mm.
do we optimize them? Um, Obviously, there's hormone optimization. There's a ton of stuff happening around that, and I think that that's something that's foundational. If our hormone levels are out of range, then they are building block. Hormones are building blocks for all the other processes in our body.
Wow.
So that's important for our longevity.
Yeah.
Minerals, oftentimes we don't get enough minerals in our diets because the soil's been, kind of decimated and burned out with chemicals and not rotated, and things like that because they're just trying to optimize the growth of the vegetables or
Yeah.
whatever they're growing. And so, companies like there's one company called thegoodinside.com. The Good Inside makes, supplements and vitamins from whole ingredients. I've interviewed their CEO and founder, and they make really clean,
Mm.
whole food ingredients like their vitamins are coming from things like broccoli and
Yeah.
carrots and like good healthy things. So there's greens powders and all kinds of things that you can do to try to bring those levels um, into optimal ranges.
Perfect. Great.
So, anyways, those are a
Yeah. No.
few tests I'd recommend, or things I would say, hey, we probably do need to be checking these biomarkers at least
Yeah.
once a year, and maybe twice a year if you have that. And some of those companies can help make that a little easier for us.
Yeah, that's great. That's really informative and interesting what you just said. I guess one of the only downsides is that you can be too preoccupied with all of this information and sort of thinking, oh, I need to do this or that, and maybe that possibly, if you're not simple in your process of how you do these things, then that could add anxiety because you might be, oh, I really need to get that biomarker checked. And I think most people do have the basics done, but they don't. And a lot of this is brilliant because it will give you that. If we want longevity, we want quality of life in the future, we do need to be aware of what fixes we can, and we need that data, and we need it on a regular basis. But I suppose on the other side of the coin, people might think, oh gosh, I don't know if I'm prepared to spend all that time and indeed money investigating it. What about if they find out something negative that could have a negative impact on their outlook? And that's something which I wanted to get onto, really, is that
Yeah.
mindset and that purpose, with aging. So how much does the mindset, and things like purpose, stress and outlook, really influence how we age? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that that's something that's super interesting, so and it affects all the other processes
Mm.
within our bodies. And so, there's clear evidence that shows that optimists live on average percent longer than pessimists. So just having an optimistic worldview and an optimistic view of life
Yeah.
is going to add a significant amount of time to
Wow.
your lifespan and
Yeah.
probably to your health span.
How
So
many percent did you just say? Because there was
it's 15%.
15%.
15%.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so that's significant. And
Yeah.
if your average lifespan's 80 years,
Yeah. That is
we're talking
significant.
about a long time, that
Yeah.
you could live 10 years longer potentially,
Yeah.
or healthier as well. And so I think a couple things, I would share, like Ray Kurzweil. We also, I started by saying we live at such an exciting time. There's so much coming.
Yeah.
And Ray Kurzweil, I love this quote. He said, he's a futurist who has made amazingly accurate predictions over the last, 30, 40 years. And many of them, I think 86 or 87% of his predictions have come true. He says, in the next decade, we will experience as much change as we have in the previous 100 years.
Wow.
So there's so much coming on the horizon. If we can just stay alive and stay healthy, then there's going to be all kinds of breakthroughs that are going to help us really do a lot of these things. They're going to take some of the work off our plates
Yeah.
and make it a lot easier for us.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of regenerative medicines, stem cells and exosome therapies and
Wow.
amazing breakthroughs that are coming. We probably don't have time to go into all that stuff,
No, of
but
course.
just having this optimistic view of one of my favorite guests I'll tell you about, the idea of having a future that's bigger than your past, I think is really important at any age.
Yeah.
And so Marv is one of my friends. He's 86 years old,
Oh, brilliant.
and he's a cyclist. And he's always been kind of a runner, and he got into cycling when he was, a little bit later in his life. But he, for his 85th birthday, decided that he was going to ride his bike the equivalent of riding around the world. Or I'm sorry, riding from here to Hong Kong. I live in Southwest Florida, riding from here to Hong Kong, 8,500 miles for his 85th birthday. Not all in one stretch, but over
No,
the
of
course of
course.
that year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 8,500 miles. So he averaged, 20 to 30 miles a day
Yeah.
of riding his bike as an 85-year-old. And he actually set out on that goal and tracked it and did it in segments. And he made it. He achieved his goal of riding 8,500 miles in his 85th year.
That's incredible.
But then he didn't stop there. And so now he's 86 and he started a new goal of riding his bike the equivalent of going around the world by the time he's 90. And so his future is bigger than his past. And what I love about Marv too is that he just is constantly learning new things.
Yeah.
He's open to trying new things. He's expanding
Wow.
his mind about things that he once held true. He's still exploring and discovering,
Incredible.
what life has to offer. And so he just has this amazing mindset about him. And that keeps him young and vibrant and healthy and engaged
Yeah.
with life.
Yeah. No,
And
that's great.
he's creating curriculums for younger people that he mentors. Um, he's very youthful
Brilliant.
in his mindset and but also useful. I think that's an important distinction too,
Yes.
that oftentimes when we think about aging, there's a negative view of longer lived people, right? That, oh, they're just, let's
Yeah.
kind of set them aside. They're no longer useful to our culture. I think that that's such a mistake. Like think about the wisdom that's acquired when you've lived
Yeah.
8 decades on this planet.
Absolutely.
And think about how much wisdom is locked up in that demographic,
Yeah.
that us younger people, we need that. We need that wisdom from these people who've gone before us.
Yeah.
And so kind of maintaining a usefulness instead of youthfulness. Like we don't need people to stay young.
No.
We need them to stay useful.
Yeah.
And so usefulness instead of youthfulness,
I love
think
that.
is a
That's a
shift.
great. That really is a great comparison. Those two words, youthfulness as opposed to you. Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah. So that's Marv's story. And I think, he's such a inspiration for me. And,
sure.
and I hope that I'm like Marv when I'm 86, that I'm riding my bike all over the place. And I told him for his 90th birthday, he wants to kind of do this capstone ride
Yeah.
on his 90th birthday, to ride from Southwest Florida to California,
Okay.
actually ride it, that 3,000-mile ride. So I said,
Yeah.
"Hey, I'll do it with you, Marv. Let's go.
Wow.
When you turn 90." So he's still, going strong and not stopping.
That's truly inspirational, and that is somebody who I would, I genuinely look up to, because as somebody who really feels that I would like that longevity, that quality of life for the future. And I've mentioned this lady on a podcast of mine in the past, Madame Mondange, who lives in France, a neighbour, and she is now 103, and she's still firing all cylinders. She's still able to walk around without a problem. She might be a bit doddery going down the stairs, but I mean, she holds on to the banister, but she's still able to walk around the village and engage with people. And she wrote a book which was published 2 years ago, which she'd been working on for quite a long time. And she was a cyclist who she did give up cycling when she was in her late 70s. I think, for health reasons. So she's not quite Marv standard in terms of the physical, for whatever reasons, but certainly mentally. And she's, so it's really inspirational to see people like that. And I guess the inclination often from our perspectives is, what is their secret? What's that source that they possess? What can we take away from them? And as you say, we do tend to, old people, elderly people, tend to be they're almost incognito. My mum said it. So my mum's in her early 80s now. And, sorry, Mum, you're almost 81, so she's only 80. But I don't mean to add years there, but, she'll be 81 soon. And she is somebody who said, people don't see me anymore. I'm just an old lady now. And so she can be much more anonymous than she was before. And I think people sometimes would like to have that that sense of belonging, that sense of kindred spirit with others. And there was an old gentleman who got on he saw our bikes recently on the train as we were taking the train. So and he was, that one's carbon, that one's aluminium, and then he started getting his pictures out from when he was a cyclist, and he was the director of a cycle club, and in there was professional cyclists. He started to show us the 1970s. This guy was 84 years of age, and he was in his element to be able to discuss his old cycling days. And it's just lovely to have that sense of community, and we shouldn't really just think, people are just elderly now and they're forgotten.
Yeah.
So it is good to engage, for sure.
I think one of the keys for people in that, we need to be lifelong learners.
Yeah.
Just keep learning new things. That keeps our minds sharp, keeps our brains fresh. It keeps our mindset, open to being, to exploring, to discovering, and kind of keeps us in that optimistic view of like our future can be bigger than our past. I learned recently about a woman who is 101, and she signed up for a college degree course when she was 97 and graduated when she was 101.
Wow.
On the same day as her great granddaughter. And so she kind of did college through with her great granddaughter as a 97. But think about that. Yeah. She's like, I'm 97. Yeah, I might as well sign up for 4 years of college. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be studying and learning. And she did, like there's no reason to stop.
Fantastic.
To stop learning. Like keep your mindset open, keep learning, keep growing, keep expanding, you know? And so I think that's really a key. And that allows you to continue that usefulness and engagement with life, and looking for ways to continue to serve humanity and serve people around you, and even if it's just one person. So, but that goes back to your question about purpose and meaning. I think plays a really vital role. If you wake up every day and you have something, it's really about knowing your why. Like if there's a reason for you to get up every day, and it usually comes down to like social connections.
Yes.
And the people that you care about and that you want to spend time with that day and that you're going to see that day. And, that gives you a reason to get out of bed and stay motivated to keep going, and keep moving and keep eating healthy foods and making sure that you get good sleep, and
exactly
keeps that motivation going. So knowing your why, and,
sure.
There's a study, 85-year long kind of longitudinal study that shows the number one factor for healthy longevity is really the quality of one's relationships. So that's kind of what it all came down to, is that the quality of our relationships. And so I think that speaks to that purpose, meaning, social connections, really does make a significant difference too.
Absolutely. And it's one of those things that, although many of us might have heard about it, again, it's a question of actioning these sorts of things, isn't it? And making a point. And I know that that's something over the years that I've probably, in different phases of my life, perhaps neglected. Not necessarily at my peril, because now I'm obviously realizing these things. And I might have, obviously, like most people when they're younger, they have many, many connections. And as you get older, unless you make that effort to maintain those connections or build new ones, and keep moving in that direction, you might just find yourself getting into a situation where you're with the same people, or those friends drop off, or that community that you were once in, you're no longer in. So therefore, you need to try to, as much as possible. And this is something which I've mentioned before. I'm now keeping paper sort of data. And one of the things I do have, one of the sort of 3 boxes is friends, family, social. And I'm making marks, which sounds a bit over the top. It sounds as though, well, that's overly analytical. But on the other hand, it makes me gauge. I think, oh, I haven't been, and it's not just other things in my life, but those things which are relevant to what you just said. And it's incredible to watch that improvement, however small, that you can make when you're aware of it and you action it. Because, it's like anything, isn't it? And you mentioned that earlier on.
Yeah.
We know about these things, but do we actually follow it through? Do we make that effort? How are we going to do that? How are we going to minimize that friction in order to do that? There needs to be a way in that. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. Yeah. So,
what gets measured gets done, right?
Yeah,
so I love that you're measuring that. That's amazing.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So just like we measure, if we're talking about measuring our biomarkers, well, let's measure our friendships and how much time we're spending, and what those relationships look like, right? Might as well.
Exactly. I would show you my data sheet, but I didn't mention. I mentioned it in my last podcast, but it's here. It's like,
oh, there you go. Yeah,
it's a paper sheet with so many different. Going down. I've been doing those now for a while, with 3 of those sheets now. But again, I'm learning this stuff so late in my life. But is it late? Because it's never too late, is it?
It's never too late. Yeah,
we 97-year-old doing her degree at 97, and she manages it. So.
Well, and we talked about epigenetics are really kind of what controls the expression of your genes. Lifestyle controls your epigenetics. It only takes 3 to 6 months for a gene to be turned off or turned on based on lifestyle factors that are influencing the epigenetics, which control that. So it's never too late. 3 to 6 months of time, you can make some lifestyle changes and do some of the things we've talked about.
Yeah.
In 3 to 6 months from now, you'll notice your genes will be expressed differently as a result. So
Brilliant.
Even if you're 87 or 97 or 7, it doesn't matter. That can make a significant difference.
No, that's
never too late.
Brilliant. That's inspirational. All of these, I love these. The stories as well as the real examples. Exactly, that's fantastic. Great. I do have another question for you as well. Do you have one mental pivot or reframe that people could employ to help them embrace aging with strength and curiosity?
Yeah, I think I go back to like that usefulness versus youthfulness, and I would frame it like this: that 65% of all people who have ever lived to the age of 65 or older are alive today. Yeah. So think about that. 2/3 of anyone who's ever been alive that has reached 65 or older is alive today.
Okay. Yeah.
And so people in that demographic are essentially pioneers. We don't have good role models. We don't have a good roadmap of what it means to live that extension of life really well.
Okay.
With an extended health span, with meaning and purpose. How do we stay engaged in the world? How do we continue to make a difference in the world? How does our life have meaning and purpose? And how do we stay vital and vibrant in that stage? Because that's really a new stage of life that's been added to a human lifespan, essentially over the last 100 years, right? So, 120 years ago, the average lifespan in the world was 45 years, 47 years old or so.
Yeah.
Most people didn't live past that. And if you made it past 65, you were an anomaly.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, we're getting to a stage where living to 100 is probably going to be pretty normal.
Yeah, good.
And so I think, we need people to be way showers, to give us those roadmaps of what does it mean to remain vital, to have purpose, to be useful, in that new stage of life that's being created, that has been created for us. We need those people to be role models. And so that's why I think of people like Marv, who is now, I think of him as a way shower. He's a pioneer. He's showing us you can be 90 years old and riding your bike across the country. Like that's there's no reason to stop. There's people like the woman I mentioned that's, that was 101 and graduated from college and started a college degree at age 97. Like,
Yeah.
you don't need to stop learning. So we need people to kind of be those people to frame that for us in a new way.
Yeah, no, that's
And
exactly
I
right.
think, yeah, I think that will shift our view of
Yeah.
what that stage of life can look like as well. And so I think there's just so much wisdom to be unlocked, and so much that we're going to learn as we do
That's
that.
great that you answered that, because it wasn't. I was actually thinking about another question before that, and I kind of proceeded a little bit too far in my mind on that one. But you've kind of answered what I wanted to ask, which was about the sort of idea of framing aging as empowering rather than discouraging, because that's the problem that many people have. Of course, they age and they know that they're going to lose that muscle mass, that they're going to potentially, because they've been told that anyway. That's almost been suggested by society, dictates. Well, obviously you're going to lose brain faculties because that's what they've witnessed. That's already in the mind, isn't it? And that power of the mind, anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It becomes, yeah, self-determining reality then. If you think, oh, when I'm 80, I'm not going to be able to do any of these things, well, then that's probably what's going to come true. If you think, oh, when I'm 80, I'm going to be skiing down black diamonds and riding my bike, and jumping off cliffs with my grandkids, then that's
yeah,
probably what you're going to
exactly.
do.
That's
Yeah,
what I'm planning on doing, and that's what lots of people. Yeah, no, for sure.
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about my in my next episode. I mean, I mentioned it's my 60th, and I'll be 60 next year. So, and I feel, yeah.
Well,
Thank you.
congrats.
I,
You're
I
just
know, I
getting
know.
started. You're just getting
I'm
started.
a spring chicken. I really am, compared to
Yeah.
who we've been talking about. Your good friend Marv. So that's that. It's lovely to hear that as well, for sure. There is actually another question which springs to mind, and it's something I was thinking about earlier on. Is there one sort of longevity practice that sounded futuristic, but turned out to be surprisingly practical in your own life? You thought, oh, that's outrageous, that can't possibly happen. But in fact, it became really practical. It was something that you could apply, because you deal in this sort of futurism, don't you?
Yes. I think, I think I would probably say there's a company called Fountain Life,
Okay.
and it's the CEO is Dr. Bill Kapp. It's backed by Peter Diamandis and Tony Robbins, and I think it's kind of known as the world's leading longevity clinic. And
Right.
I've had the privilege and opportunity to kind of go through all the diagnostics that they do and the whole workup, and it's not cheap. That's the one thing. It's expensive, but the things that they're doing, I believe, will become accessible to the masses.
Right.
It has to start here
Mm,
and be proven out, and then it'll be democratized, demonetized, and available to all of us. And so I think it feels like you're walking in when you go to Fountain Life. There's 4 centers around the world. They're expanding, significantly.
wow.
We have one here in Naples where I live, and so it's close by for me. But they give you a full diagnostic, full workup
Mm,
of every test you can imagine that
right.
mostly sick people get when you're really, really sick. They do
Yeah.
them when you're healthy. And so you
Okay.
get,
Wow.
a full brain and body MRI. You get the Clearly test that I talked about. You get a
Yes.
DEXA scan. You get an EKG. You get 144 biomarkers measured in your blood work. You get a balance
Wow.
test. You get a cognitive test. You get a smell test. Olfactory test. So
And how long does all that take? So you go
it's
into
a,
this place. Yeah.
yeah, it's about 5.5 hours
Okay.
that
All
you
right.
do
That's
all of
doable.
this. Um, and then you get all of that data, and
Mm,
all of these diagnostics, and I believe that this will be probably the way of the future. It's really a shift on, hey, let's find everything ahead of time and then prevent it. You get a Gallery test. That's another test that if people are worried about cancer,
yeah.
it's a blood test that screens for 50 different types of cancer, and then they utilize that alongside of the full brain and body MRI, and you can kind of say like, yeah, I don't have cancer, or they can find cancers at stage 1 instead of stage 4.
Yeah.
Imagine the difference there. And so,
Oh yeah, for sure.
so
Brilliant.
their model is kind of like diagnose, measure, find really get a baseline, and then
Yeah.
optimize, from
Okay.
there, and then regenerate. And so they're also utilizing regenerative therapies and stem cell treatments and things like that.
Incredible.
Um,
Incredible. That
and so
sounds.
that's
Wow.
it feels very futuristic,
Yeah.
but it's here and
Yeah.
it's available. It's like I said, it's not cheap. People do fly come from all over the world to
Yeah.
come to their centers. There's one in Dallas, there's one in Orlando, one in New York, and one in Naples, Florida.
Yeah.
Um, so it's available now, but that's probably what I would say. Hey, it feels futuristic, but it feels like
And
the way of
Zach,
the
did you
future.
get a free pass for that
I
because of
happen
your?
to, yeah. So I was pretty lucky there.
Yeah.
But if I didn't get a free
Yeah.
pass,
Great.
I would probably pay for it because I
You.
think it's
Yeah.
that valuable.
Yeah. No, no, for
Yeah,
sure, for sure. And I thought you probably would, but just because of your obviously your experience,
yeah,
and
yeah,
so brilliant. That's good information. I
yeah.
had
You can
no
check it
idea.
out. There's obviously their website and everything else, but it's just kind of fascinating and cool to see. Okay, this is what's coming. It's much more preventative focus.
I love the idea that you can do the whole thing in one go in a matter of like 5 or 6 hours. You can just get it done with all that information as opposed to piecemealing it in different places. So you just go, done, finished, over, results, done. That's great. That's really good.
Yeah, yeah. And then the beauty is you can go back, a year later and get it redone and see,
Mm,
measure your progress. So it's really kind of you get that baseline, but then you're
yeah.
optimizing, kind of moving forward.
And also, I suppose once you've got all those results, there will be suggestions because it will be built into the system. Especially we're at that sort of point now in time where the information will be that you should be doing this in order to help you with that particular biomarker because that wasn't the best results. Therefore, maybe this is a suggested activity for you,
Correct.
or that
Yeah.
food, or that nutrition, or whatever. So that
Yeah,
can
they have
all
a
help.
kind of a functional health trained, that the approach to it. So their
Yeah,
physicians are all longevity, functional health, and integrative medicine kind of physicians that meet with you.
great.
They have nutritionists, exercise physiologists, kind of a wraparound
Yeah,
team that's really helping each of their clients uh,
brilliant.
with those suggestions. With okay, this is off a little bit. Let's fix this, or here's where your biomarkers are lacking. So let's change that. So it's really taking that sort of functional health approach to it and personalizing it. So which, like I said, I think that's kind of the future. There's one other company I'll just mention because I did
Yeah,
have
please.
a chance to meet the CEO and founders of Longevity Health. And so that's
Okay.
another company that's taking a similar approach. They do it more remotely. Um, and not they don't have the same amount of tests. They do a number of tests, but you kind of do those on your own, and then they recommend what tests to get, and
Mm,
then they have physicians that will meet and kind of go over your results and help you create a plan for you. And
mm,
what I like about them is they have three different levels of it. One, their ultimate goal is to get it down to $10 a month utilizing AI. So you can get these
wow.
tests done on your own, upload it into
Amazing.
your AI coach, and then you pay $10 a month and it's walking with you all the way through, right? So
Oh,
I think
brilliant.
that's kind of the future where we're headed. We're
Yeah.
not quite there yet, but give it 2 to 3 years,
Yeah.
maybe 5 years at the most, and we'll have that available to us. That kind of um, forward-thinking, predictive, preventative medicine that's personalized and
Mm,
customized to your body, to where you are, and how to get to optimal. So
yeah.
I think that's what's coming.
Yeah, that would be an amazing thing to have, $10 a month because everybody can afford that. And I suppose that would all be on, you do the whole thing online, wouldn't you? You'd have to,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You don't have. I mean, you get the test done locally at Quest Diagnostics, or you get your
yeah.
DEXA scan, or things like that you can do,
Mm,
um, kind of one-offs, and then you upload all that
yeah.
data, and then it's kind of coaching you along the way to tell you how to
Brilliant.
optimize.
That's really,
Yeah.
really clear. And obviously, Zach, it would be lovely. Obviously, I will drop all the notes and for you in the show notes. Obviously, the Fully Alive podcast.
Yeah.
Is there any other way of getting in contact with you? Any other platforms that you would like to mention at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I'm available on. It's easy to find me on LinkedIn. The podcast that I have the privilege and honor of hosting is called Fully Alive: Unlocking the Secrets to Your Healthier, Happier, Longer Life. I work at a community called Shell Point, where we serve the population that we've been talking about, these elders and longer lived people that live here at Shell Point, which is a community here in Southwest Florida, a life plan community, we call it. And so we have about 2,500 residents here. So you can find me at there as well. Shellpoint.org/podcast is kind of where our podcast lives. But yeah, Fully Alive, you can find it on all the platforms, and check it out that way too.
Yeah, no, that's great, and I'll put all that in the show notes anyway. So as much as I can find, and as much as you'd like to give me, and also anything else that you mentioned as well with the products, that would be great if you just Thanks so much. So thanks very much for sharing all these like powerful insights, and it's really enabling us to bridge all that science and strategy in everyday life into this sort of longevity space. It's amazing, and if you want to obviously learn as much as possible, listen to Fully Alive, the podcast. I really recommend it because Zach dives into so much interesting things to do with longevity, and it's a really worthwhile podcast. So thanks so much, Zach. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Alan. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks for the great work you're doing. It's been really fun today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's been wonderful. Thanks. And just on a sort of like a note of leaving, just remember that aging is inevitable, but decline is optional. So that's just a sort of like couple of things. Yeah, it's great.
Love that.
Thanks so much, Zach, and I appreciate that. And goodbye, everyone. And until next time on Busy Pro Fast Wellness. And there you have it. That brings us to the end of part 2 of this remarkable conversation with Zach Gurick. For me, these stories aren't just inspiring, they're instructional. They remind us that longevity is not a passive waiting game. It's something we can participate in. What can we take away from this? Well, it's the mindset, it's the meaning, it's the relationships, and it's the quiet decisions day by day that tell your biology, I'm not done yet. A huge thanks to Zach for sharing so generously. And to you, thank you for listening. Until next week, stay well, stay strong, keep moving, and keep living fully. Goodbye for now.